In a quiet little corner of the city, where the first rays of sunlight gently filtered through the leaves, a small bakery had just opened its doors. It was called the Wind's Bakery. A modest wooden sign hung above the doorframe, swaying slightly in the morning breeze. The shop's owner was a young woman named Li Zixiao, with bright eyes and a gentle smile that, beneath the surface, carried countless untold emotions. Zixiao was not born into a warm or loving family. Her mother passed away when she was very young, and her father, a stern, distant man, rarely ever smiled at his daughter. She grew up surrounded by cold silence and harsh discipline, never once hearing sweet words of affection or feeling the comfort of a warm embrace. And yet, there was one thing no one could take away from her: her love for baking. As a child, Zixiao often sneaked into the kitchen late at night when her father hadn't come home from work. She would play around with flour, butter, and eggs. Her first cakes were burnt, misshapen, and far from perfect, but in her eyes, they sparked a joy so pure it lit up the entire room. In that little kitchen, she found a peace the big, quiet house had never given her. At the age of 25, after years of working tirelessly at a finance company, Zixiao made a life-altering decision: she quit her job. Her father was furious. He disowned her, claiming she was destroying the future he had worked so hard to build for her. But Zixiao knew deep down, if she didn't have the courage to live for herself now, she might never truly live at all. With her modest savings, she rented an old house tucked away in the city's historic quarter. She renovated it with her own hands, every corner, every tile on the floor, and even the wooden counter in the front. Each morning, she rose early to knead dough, bake, and carefully place the freshly made pastries on the shelves, nervous, yet filled with joy. Her first customers stopped by out of curiosity, but soon, they were drawn in by the comforting aroma and her genuine, heartfelt presence. Some might think this is just a simple story of a young woman chasing her dream. But no, it was far more than that. Behind every sweet pastry was a string of memories, long-buried secrets, and pain from a past carefully hidden away. And so, within that tiny kitchen, surrounded by the scent of butter and flour, began Zixiao's journey, one of self-discovery, healing, and uncovering the truth buried deep within her heart. The bell above the bakery door chimed softly one late afternoon. The sun was beginning to dip behind the buildings, casting a golden hue through the bakery's windows. Tieu had just finished arranging the last batch of warm croissants when a man in a long, dark coat stepped inside. He looked to be in his 60s, with silver hair, sharp eyes, and an aura that immediately silenced the cozy little space. Tieu looked up, startled, the smile on her face faltering slightly. There was something oddly familiar about him, though she couldn't place it at first. The man slowly approached the counter, his eyes scanning every corner of the bakery as if trying to recall something long buried. "This place," he murmured. "It smells like her kitchen." Tieu's breath caught in her throat. "I'm sorry, sir. Do I know you?" The man didn't answer immediately. Instead, he reached into his coat and pulled out an old, faded photograph, a woman with gentle eyes and a soft smile, standing in front of a wooden oven. Her hands were dusted with flour, and in her arms was a little girl, barely 5 years old. Tieu's hands trembled as she took the photo. She recognized the woman. It was her mother. The man finally spoke, voice low and hoarse. "I'm your uncle. Your mother's brother." Shock rippled through her. Her mother had a brother? Why had no one ever told her? Why had her father kept it a secret all these years? "I didn't know you existed," she whispered. "I left the country when your mother married your father," he said. "We disagreed, strongly. He never approved of our family. I wanted to come back after she passed, but your father made sure I couldn't reach you." The pieces started falling into place. The silence of her childhood. The absence of any stories about her mother's side. The way her father would shut down at the mention of the past. "I found your bakery by accident," her uncle continued. "I was just walking through this neighborhood when I saw the name on your sign, Timbon Quagio. That was what your mother used to call her dream bakery. I knew I had to walk in." Tieu clutched the photo to her chest. Her heart ached, not just with pain, but with a strange, overwhelming sense of something finally clicking into place, like a missing puzzle piece returning after decades. That evening, the two sat down at the little wooden table by the window. He told her stories, about her mother's childhood, her dreams, her laughter. About how she used to make mooncakes for the entire neighborhood. About the small songs she hummed while kneading dough. Tieu listened, tears quietly falling into her lap. For the first time in her life, someone was painting a picture of the woman she barely remembered. The smell of butter and sugar in the air, mixed with the stories of love and sorrow, made the bakery feel warmer than ever before. And as the sky outside turned deep indigo, something inside her shifted. The bakery wasn't just hers anymore. It was her mother's legacy, revived. It was a doorway to a past she was finally beginning to understand. And so, as the night embraced the city, Tieu knew her journey wasn't just about baking. It was about healing. It was about uncovering the truth that had been hidden in silence and flour-dusted memories. The days after her uncle's visit passed slowly, like butter melting in a warm pan. Each morning, Tieu would unlock the bakery with a different feeling in her heart, one of curiosity, of yearning, and above all, of reconnection. Her uncle returned a few more times, always with a story, always with something precious, a faded handwritten letter, a recipe card with ink smudged from time, or a wooden spoon that once belonged to her mother. But one afternoon, he brought something else entirely, a journal. "This was your mother's," he said quietly, placing the worn book on the counter. "She started writing in it before you were born. I think she wanted to leave something behind for you. Just in case." With trembling hands, Tieu opened the leather-bound cover. The pages were delicate, the ink faded, but the words were alive. Her mother had written about her dreams of opening a bakery filled with the smell of cinnamon and laughter. She wrote about Tieu's first steps in the kitchen, how she would crawl toward the cookie jar or pat dough with her tiny hands. And then, the tone shifted. The words became heavier, more hesitant. She wrote about the arguments with Tieu's father. About her desire to reconnect with her family. About fear. About longing. And, most of all, about love. Tieu sat on the floor of her bakery, journal in hand, as tears streamed down her cheeks. She had spent so many years thinking she had been forgotten, by her mother's family, by the past. But this journal was proof. She had always been remembered. Always loved. She flipped to a page tucked near the end, one that had a tiny drawing of a mooncake beside a recipe in flowing script. "Bon Trung Thursday Nan Dao Zan, for the Mid-Autumn Festival. For my daughter. So she'll know who she is, and where she came from." That night, Tieu stayed up late in the bakery. She closed the front door, tied on her mother's old apron, and gathered the ingredients. She measured the flour like her mother had written, not by scale, but by heart. She soaked the mung beans, mashed them gently, and added just enough sugar to echo the sweetness of childhood. As she worked, memories began to surface. The way her mother would hum softly while kneading dough. The warmth of her hands guiding Tieu's. The scent of mooncakes baking during autumn's long past. When the mooncakes came out of the oven, golden and fragrant, she placed one on a plate and walked outside. The moon was full, bathing the street in a silver glow. She held the mooncake close and whispered, "I remember now." From that night on, every mid-autumn festival, Tieu would make her mother's mooncakes and give them out, not to sell, but as gifts. She'd wrap them in brown paper, tie them with string, and include a little card that read, "May this remind you of home, of love, and of those we never truly lose." And somehow, through flour, memory, and a little bit of magic, the bakery became more than just a place of business. It became a bridge, between generations, between hearts, between the past and the present. The Mid-Autumn Festival arrived once again. The bakery was adorned with gentle yellow lights, moon-shaped lanterns, and traditional decorations that evoked warmth and nostalgia. Lai Tieu spent the whole day baking her mother's signature mooncakes, golden, fragrant, and lovingly crafted from memory. That evening, an old man quietly stepped into the bakery. His face was weathered, his back slightly hunched, and in his eyes shimmered a mixture of unease and hope. He didn't say much at first. He simply stood there, staring at a framed photo near the counter, the photo of a young woman holding a tray of bread, smiling brightly. Tieu recognized him. Though time had altered his features, she could see traces of someone once deeply familiar. Her heart tightened. "You knew her, didn't you?" she asked softly. The old man nodded. "She was my sister." A moment of silence passed between them, so fragile it felt like even a whisper could break it. He hesitated, then placed a worn envelope on the counter. "I should have come earlier," he said. "But I didn't know how." Inside the envelope was a letter, written decades ago by Tieu's mother. It was never sent. In it, she spoke of longing, of regret, of wishing to reconnect with her brother, the very man standing before Tieu now. Her uncle had never mentioned this estranged sibling. For years, the family had been divided by misunderstandings, pride, and distance. Tieu made tea, and they sat down. She listened as the man shared stories about her mother, how she used to hum while baking, how she once dreamed of opening a bakery on a street just like this one. His voice trembled with emotion, and Tieu felt as though she were seeing another side of her mother's life, one she had never known. "I was foolish," he confessed. "I left when we argued. I thought I'd have time to fix things. But time, it slips away." Tieu didn't speak. She reached for her notebook, the one where she recorded customer stories and family memories, and added a new page, her mother's brother, her own uncle, now a quiet guest at her table. The next morning, she invited both her uncle and the elderly man to help her make mooncakes. They worked together silently at first, but then, laughter emerged, gentle, cautious, like light peeking through morning clouds. Later, she wrote on the chalkboard outside. "Family is like dough. It can be reshaped, mended, and made whole again." The little bakery had now become more than just a place that sold bread. It was a place where stories were shared, where people stopped by not only for food but for connection. Tieu stood by the window one morning, watching the neighborhood awaken. Children ran down the street holding school bags. An old couple walked hand in hand. The once silent street was now full of life and voices. Her bakery had played a part in that. The uncle who once grumbled about her silly idea now visited every day. He didn't say much, but he helped peel lotus seeds, knead dough, and even smiled, something Tieu once thought she'd never see from him again. And the old man, her mother's brother, had returned to the countryside after staying for a few days, but not without leaving behind a small wooden box. Inside were her mother's handwritten recipes, yellowed by time but still fragrant with memories. There was also a note. "She never forgot you. And now, I won't forget again either." Tieu placed that box on a shelf behind the counter, next to the family photo. Every time she baked, she felt as though her mother was guiding her hands, whispering in her ear. On the Mid-Autumn festival night, she handed out mooncakes for free to children passing by. Some didn't understand why, others grinned and ran off, delighted. Tieu looked up at the sky, where the full moon glowed. She thought of her mother, her family, the wounds that had begun to heal, and the warmth that filled her heart. She stepped outside the bakery and wrote one final note on the chalkboard. "Home is not a place. It's the people you forgive, the stories you remember, and the hands you choose to hold again." As the moonlight bathed the quiet street, Tieu stood by her bakery's door, listening to the sound of laughter, the smell of warm bread wafting through the night air, and the echo of a love that had never truly left.